All right, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to the online conference for the LECo project. LECo is the abbreviation of Local Energy Communities. And this conference is also the third day of the Cooperative Material Week. My name is Ryotaro Kajimura. I'm your host this morning, and I work for the Renewable Energy Agency in Germany, which is a nonprofit that provides information, knowledge, and arguments and expertise in support of renewable energy in Germany, but also internationally. Before we dive into business, I would like to make a few technical remarks. This is an online conference hosted on Zoom. I would ask you to turn off your microphones when you're not speaking. And also, in case you have a bad connection, if you drop out of the session, just reconnect using the same link as you used when joining the session. Also, we would like to ask you to ask any questions regarding the content in the chat function of Zoom, because because all of the attendees are in listen-only mode. The people you are seeing on the screen are the panelists or the speakers. And also, please be aware that this conference is being recorded. And although you're sitting at home or maybe at a kitchen desk, you're speaking in some public place. Keep that in mind, please. Let's have a quick look at the agenda. Heidi, can you please share the slides for the agenda with the agenda? You had them on right a moment ago. Great, thank you. So this conference is composed by 3 sessions. Next slide, please. The first session that we are starting right now is the introduction part. We touch upon what the LECo project is about and why energy communities matter. The second session from 9:55 is looking closer at the LECo project, what we have actually done there. And finally, to wrap up the conference, the third session will focus upon the pilot communities that we're working on the LECo project, and also wrap up with a nice and short panel discussion about the learnings we had in the project. So thank you, Heidi. So this conference wraps up 3 years of transnational work in the LECo project, and the project consists of 8 partner organizations from 5 countries, which are Finland, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, and Germany. And it's certainly sad not to meet everyone in person to wrap up this project. However, circumstances as they are, it's a bit sad, but that's why we are able to reach more people from around Europe, around the NPA, Northern Periphery and Arctic region. So I think we are making the best out of it. And I firstly like to thank you all for attending, all the speakers and panelists, of course, and also we'd like to thank the Cooperative Material Week for the opportunity to present our results here. Well, so without further ado, let us get down to business. And first up is Marco Fossell. He is the R&D director at the Central University of Applied Science, which is our lead partner in the project. And he will introduce us to the LECo project and why local energy matters. Marco.
Oh, thank you, Ryotaro, for your opening words. And dear guests and colleagues, thank you for being here today, or should I being there and whenever, since this will be a remote seminar and this will be recorded for offline viewing also. And even this seminar highlights that we are in the midst of the big changes. So one question that has been wandering around my mind is that, is it too late? Is it actually too late? And if it is, what should we do to prepare, or can we even prepare? Okay, so it is fair to ask that, is it too late for what? How to cipher this kind of question? Well, first of all, of course, I could be referring to the ecological crisis that we are facing. Our time is called as a geological epoch called Anthropocene. And I think that we can honestly congratulate ourselves that this is by far not a small feat that we have accomplished. Putting human footprint on an Earth's surface in a few short centuries, that's a big thing to do. Our answer to the question that what we should do naturally is that whatever we can. So this is one of the main reasons for LECo project to exist. With local energy production, we aim to reduce the use, for example, the use of the fossil fuels, and of course to reduce the transportation cost of transporting this fossil fuel from place to another. Efficient energy use and renewing and diversifying energy production, we can actually control the climate change, at least affect it in some scale. Okay, so is it too late? How to second way to interpret this kind of question, that are we too late, can be, of course, looked from the point of view of global crises. We have faced during the last 10 years, when I did quick calculation, at least 4 global or nearly global crises. I'm referring that what came first to mind, of course, are 9/11, financial crisis 2008, the volcano eruption in Iceland 2010, and now COVID-19. These all had possibility, or they did affect us globally, and especially from the point of view of global economy, and of course global logistics, at least in some of these crises. And this means that ideas about self-sufficiency are critical. And of course, in this sense, the national security must be also considered. And if we make a short list about things that we should be quite self-sufficient, energy is high on that list. So locally produced energy is creating self-sufficiency and is giving some kind of security, even on national level. So I came to think when I'm thinking about global crisis, one thing that always comes to mind is Nicholas Taleb and his book about black swans, or shocks that he calls black swans. So are these black swans? I'm not sure. I haven't studied that closely, but these are shocks that, while they are not totally unpredictable, we are totally unprepared for them. And of course, how to prepare for unpredictable events? That seems to be an oxymoron, but there is something that we can do. Nature's way to respond to these kind of very unlikely events is to create redundancy. So you know that we all have spare parts. We have 2 ears, 2 eyes, lungs, kidneys, and we even do have so-called left hand, whichever hand that is or might be. So nature does not create. So nature does not rely, in some cases, only to have one part. So a second way to do that is that nature does not create 2 big units, since we have learned with time that 2 big units are more vulnerable. And also nature relies quite a lot on networks, on producing results. And often we see cooperation between organic units in nature. And of course, third way to protect from outside shock is that you should not be situated too densely. If population is very dense, all kind of bad things can happen. Things will be transferred and spread more quickly, as we have learned quite painfully during the last half a year. So locally produced energy and projects like LECo, they tap directly to these kind of issues. It tries to find out the ways how to spread energy production more widely, and how to be not so centralized. So again, is it too late? The third way to interpret is, of course, concerning our Western lifestyle, democracy, the economic system. We know that global economy and Western lifestyle are big drivers behind the climate crisis. And now we have seen, at least here in Finland, that coronavirus showed that how fast we actually can change if we want. Certain aspects of our living can change quite quickly. Remote working, remote meetings, as you can see, remote seminars, and so on. They show that there is lots of potential to reduce carbon emissions and quite fast. Of course, the trend to move big cities have also been reversed. Again, I'm speaking in Finnish context here, and at least for a moment. If we want to support this kind of trend, we also should see that what opportunities locally produced energy can give to these little more sparsely populated areas. Of course, it is not one of the business opportunities to create locally, of course, it is one of the business opportunities too, and to create jobs. And this quite often is so-called green energy, so we get double or triple effects there. So projects like LECo show how we can do local and green energy production efficiently and self-sufficiently. What I think that is even more important is that LECo tries to build local communities and their cooperation. And this kind of local participation and feeling of togetherness is something that I think we do need more in current environment on Earth. We need more ways to connect with people. And so giving and growing roots to local area, and at the same time adding businesses and jobs. Again, quite nice result, great achievement. And this kind of operation also affects local consumers. They can have their own energy with lower costs, hopefully, and at least the transfer price wise, if we are thinking about that. And local energy production can create local value change, where a large number of local companies can work together. As we can see from for example, Jebua's biogas factory. It uses local resources to create gas, with which is then again used by the local big factories such as Mirka or Snellman. Here we can replace fossil fuels with locally produced green or more greener energy. And also residue materials can be used by local farms and in their fields. So with these few words, it is my pleasure to give my appreciation and thank yous for all of you people who have made the Lecco project work so successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco, for these kind words and your reflection of the challenges we are facing, well, globally and have to tackle locally. It's not just a cliche, it's true, I believe. And our next speaker knows very well how to act locally, and he also can certainly touch upon the aspects of local economic effects connected to sustainable energy efforts. Bertram Fleck, he has served 26 years as district administrator of the Rhein-Hunsrück district in Germany, district being some equivalent to county in the USA, so to speak. And in 26 years of office, he turned a rather, well, not so wealthy region to a prosperous region full of sustainable energy, and also the net zero emission district now. And the Rhein-Hunsrück district was also a destination of our study trip, one of our study trips we did in the project. And yeah, Bertram, I am very looking forward to your presentation.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Bertram Fleck. Yeah, a special greetings to Finland. Hyvää huomenta. I hope it was right. I would like to tell you something about our climate actions, our activities in renewable energy. and especially the value added, the regional added value, and the importance of the communities for the success of the renewable energies. Jetzt muss ich weiterklicken. Ah. Some words about our district. Yeah, it's my administration has about 400 employees, 103,000 inhabitants living in the region area, nearly 1,000 square meters. You see 45% forest and 42% agriculture. That's very important and very unusual. 137 settlements and 75% with less than 500 inhabitants. So it's very rural district, sparsely populated. Halt, das war der falsche. Let's start with some words about the role of the communities. The national governments can set the goals, but to implement set goals, you need municipalities. I think some nations do not know this. So my topic is local authorities are the born and strategic partners of the district governments. And why? We made the land development plans. We have the areas for biomass and wind energy. We are organizer of local networks. It's very important working together. We are owner of buildings, consumer of energy. We are close to the citizens, also a very important point, because we can give and have to give model parts and good examples, then the cities can follow us. You see the orange color, that are the benefits for the local planning bureaus, for construction, electro enterprises, for tax incomes, rental income, shops, and so on and so on. You know this. Yeah, in some years ago, we were very surprised that the total expenditures for energy imports in the district of Rhein-Hunsrück are more than 290 million euros, plus nearly 25 million euros for tax on electricity going to Berlin. So it's for traffic, for heating, for electricity. And the question for us was, why do we send such a lot of money in direction of Putin and Arabic counties? We want to keep a lot of these millions instead of energy imports cost. We want to create energy efficiency and renewable energies, so we convert this import cost. On the right side, you can see the lot of money for the Federal Republic for imports of energy. 2012, around 92 billion euros, 2017, around 80 billion euros. So a lot of chances for new kindergarten, for schools, for environment, for nature, and so on and so on. Yeah, we started with energy efficiency, and it would be my advice to everybody, because 40% of the total energy consumption is going into buildings in Germany. We have nearly 23 million buildings, mostly erected before the 17th. So they are in bad conditions and urgent need for renovation. And this so-called energy controlling means we measure every hour in all our buildings and rooms, heat, water, electricity, and later there's an evaluation of the data, and after this we take special measures to avoid false reduced energy. And I repeat, energy efficiency is the sleeping giant. Let us awaken. Yeah. We have a lot of possibilities in electricity, in renewable energy and electricity, but I think we should more do for heating networks. So we started 120 collecting points nearly in every village. And in the first step, We collect part of this shrub and tree cuttings and make fuel preparation in the central processing place. Second step, 40% is nearly compost quality, 60% is the material for the heating networks. You see on the right side, down a central heating station in the middle of a school center. So we have 3 school centers in the district with nearly 40 buildings. You see the annual savings in the blue color, 800,000 liters fuel oil equivalent, total invest 9 million euros in 20 years. Imports cost of 15 million euros will remain in the region with a price increase nearly 20 million euros for the region, not for Putin, not for Arabic counties. We have a lot of followers. Now, not only 3 heating centers in the district, but 17 biomass local heat networks in operation. Here is the example of 2 little villages, Küls and Neuerkirch, together 760 inhabitants and 150 houses. You see the villages, the plan of the villages, and the middle of the 2 villages, they're working together, is unusual in the Hunsrück area. In the middle of this plant, you see a red color. That's the energy plant. You see on the left side above. It's special heat generators. We have 2 wood gyps heating boilers and more than 1,400 square meters solar thermal fields. That was very unusual. That's the largest area in the state of Rhineland-Palatinate. So that's very important because during the summer, you only need heating warm water that can do the solar thermal field, and in winter it supports the heating. And again, blue color, 70 biomass legal heat supply systems in operation. That means 2.7 million liters of imported heating oil can be avoided, equivalent 2 million euros per year in 2018, and 40 till 60 million euros in 20 years. They stay in the region. They give economic effect. That's not unusual in Germany, but we were one of the first community who made a solar cataster. Our aim was to win 2,000 people, which will put photovoltaic systems on their roofs. It was working together with the 2 local banks, with a special company and the state agency for measuring, because they have the data of all roofs in the state of Rhineland-Palatinate. So we can get the data from this agency and we give it to the banks and to this special company. And you see on the left side, you have for everybody looking in the internet, you can see your own roof. If it's a red color, it's very well geeignet, suited. Brown color and yellow color. And we were very surprised because we had the possibility to get more than 1,000 people. At least we had 3,000 people until today, 4,800 roof plans. It's a wonderful result, very unusual. And you see again the blue color, the regional share of invest once 38 million euros, and the regional feed-in tariff for 20 years, every year 20.8 million euros. That's a wonderful success. And you can look in internet and ask what is the installed power for my roof, the number of modules, the cost, the feed-in tariff, financing, advertising, and so on and so on. So you see on the right side, 2007, if you start, the neighbors will follow 2011, the next picture. Yeah, wind power is also very unusual. Normally, it's more on the coast in Germany. We are a rural district with some little hills. You see it on the picture. 95% of the wood and the land where they erected wind turbines is common land. That's important because the communities, they will get the annual leasing income for them. And you see the blue color again, 7 million of annual leasing income, 1.6 million servicing costs for the region, 2.2 million feed-in tariff only for the wind turbines who are in the ownership of communities or private people in our region. Most are in the hand of so-called Stadtwerke, companies belonging to cities. And in summary, in 20 years, 216 billion euros going in the region as regional added value. And you can imagine what the communities will do with this money, because all are a little bit poor. The economy is not so good, so we need this money for the communities. At least we have 278 wind power plants. The landscape is changing. That wasn't easy every day, but we did it. If you had asked me 20, 30 years ago, is it possible what you now see on this slide, I would tell you, no, that's impossible. On the left side, the red color, 100% is the total power consumption. That are 480 million kilowatts in 2017. Altogether, private people, administration, economic people. On the blue color, 310% is the power generation from renewable energy. You see on the right side, biomass, 18 plants, photovoltaic, nearly 4,800 plants, wind energy, 278 turbines. 310%, so 3 times more than we can use in consumption in our region. The average of the Federation of the Federal Republic is of Germany is 38. Yeah, if you are active, you need a lot of measures. I will tell you later about the climate protection concept. One of the measures was doing more for e-car and e-car sharing, though it was normal that we had the first public filling station in the district in our administration, not in the neighborhood. And one of the first hybrid car in 2010, now since 2014, 2 electric smarts. It's important because the population is looking to the administration. What are they doing? Do they only telling about e-cars, telling about electricity, or are they on a normal and a newish standard? One project, a very successful project since 1 year, is a special e-car sharing model for a rural district. The district put 7 e-cars to the disposal of several small communities that didn't have to pay €1. All these citizens in these little villages can use the cars without costs. And after 1 year, we will put these 7 cars in the next villages, so everybody have the chance to test it, and it's very, very positive, the reaction of the population. One of the most important slides, my district gave the permission to all buildings, so we know that invest in the last 15, 20 years was only for renewable energy, well, 1.35 billion euros over all renewable energy plants. That is once. You see the yellow color, the region value creation per annum is once is the invest for the region is 102 million euros. And on the right side, the annual regional value creation now is 43 million euros. Every year, 43.5 million euros going into the region to private people, to administration, to craftsmen, and so on and so on. It's a great economic development. You see, it's rental income, it's taxes, feed-in remuneration, new jobs, local chance for agriculturists, forest owners, and so on and so on. And some people are not sure that it's also a great chance to solve the demographic problems, because if you are active in renewable energies and energy efficiency, you have a special income also in the communities. If you have a special income, you can make special measures against demographic change. You can strengthen your public service, for example, a bus for a village or elderly care or village shop and so on. Yeah, what do some communities do with this money? It's a community with 990 inhabitants, Mastershausen. They have a private, they have a wind park with 14 wind turbines. So they have a special income, 300,000 euros per annum, 300,000 on top of the normal budget. And you see, what do they how do they use the rental income from the wind and the solar park? Expansions of local streets, vitalization program for old buildings, support of local clubs, reconstruction of old schools, DSL connection, and so on. Oh. So it's a great success for the community. They have a special future program for 20 years, and I think everybody likes to live in such a community. If you want to change the world, you shall start with the children. So 20 years ago, we erected, with the support of the state of Rhineland-Palatinate, a so-called extracurricular facility. That means without school grades, without exams, and everybody, the child, 3, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, can come to us and can see and learn what's going on with renewable energy. It's a different if you can grip a PV plant, or on the right side, if young people can arrange that the light bulb lights up with your work, with a wind turbine. So it's very, the people are very fond of this, and we have a lot of visitors. So start with the children or compete with the children. I can make it short that the climate protection, everybody needs such a concept, because if you are active, perhaps you make faults and 10 or 15 years later say, oh, why didn't I make it in another way? You can read it. Very important is more than 9 workshops and 300 participants. You must participate, the people, and they gave in a lot of input. We have at least 92 individual measures, and yeah, by appointment of a climate protection manager later, because you have somebody who takes care of all these measures. If you want to take the population with you, you have to inform it. You have made newspaper articles. They want to participate, but you must something do where they are touched. So saving electricity costs on the left side, or next year.
It looks like we have lost Bertram. Well, that's a well, it looks like we have lost Bertram connection. Let's wait a second until maybe he's recovering quickly. No, doesn't look like he's recovering quickly. Let's wait for one more second. Well, it doesn't look like he's recovering very quickly. It's certainly a pity that he dropped out when things got very interesting. Maybe we can go on in the agenda, and when Bertram is back in this session, he can resume where he has he stopped. So well, so far, thank you very much, Bertram, although you're offline at the moment. I've been in the Rhein-Hunsrück district 3 or 4 times, and it still impresses me how comprehensive the approach is and what kind of a self-strengthening structure he has built with his staff in the administration. And we will certainly hear more from him also in the panel discussion later. So wrapping up this first session before we head to the second session is Pekka Peura. He is a senior advisor at the Vaasa Energy Business Innovation Center at the University of Vaasa in Finland. And he is one of the pioneers of renewable energy in Finland, and he was involved very early on in the development. And he will point out the role of small communities in the broader context of a sustainable energy transition. Pekka, the floor is yours. And also, I would like to remind everyone participating that you're able to ask questions in the chat. Pekka, please.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I guess it's pretty early in the UK still. Welcome to the Finnish seaside, which is great. Today, maybe without the T at the end, it's only gray. Just a second.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Bertram
can hear
Fleck
very
again. We had a
clear.
blackout, so I have 4 slides. Is it possible or it's too late? Excuse me, I apologize.
Pekka, we just have not started yet, so would that be okay to leave the floor once again to Bertram for a second and then start your slides?
No trouble. No trouble. No trouble
Thank you.
at all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I will hurry, but only 4 slides. Apologize. It's a technical problem, but I think we have solved it. brauche ich. So we just were talking about taking the population. Ist weggerutscht. Will er nicht. Da haben wir was. Jetzt werde ich nervös. Ist die 17? Können Sie gerade die 16 aufrufen noch, dann haben wir es. Ja, 16. So we are on slide 16. Can you hear me now again? Yeah, everything okay? Please apologize. I will hurry. We were just talking, no, 16. Yeah, this is. We were just talking about taking the population with us and inform and participate. So we have some competitions. So who has the oldest heating pump in the district? For 1 year, wonderful. TV, newspaper, it was wonderful. Going into the cellar with a craftsman and looking for heating pumps, because the heating pump costs from 300 or 400 euros, but they need 130 euros. The old one on costs for electricity. The new ones only have the cost of 30. So in 3 or 4 years, you have the return on invest. Or very nice competition, where's the oldest ice box? It was also a great success. The oldest one, the winner was from 1950. And we had a special ice box from 1912. you know. Only old people know this because you really put ice into this ice box in earlier times. So it was a great success to make the people, to inform the people what's going on. So here again, some competitions. We have more than 22 communities who offered the change of light bulbs and for free. So in every little village was a great event. On the right side, you see it's not only necessary to take PV on your meeting house of the community, but also have a battery storage. Though that's the example for the next villages. They come to look for this, and the community had the name of Horn, and the people of Horn telling us in Horn the sun is shining also at night because from the battery comes electricity for the LED light during the night. Yeah, we often forget the small and middle enterprises. You see a health center with more than 103 employees, 2 buildings. The concept, very easy, conversion to LED lighting, photovoltaic plant for eternal consumption and a baseload cogeneration unit, primarily for the sauna area. In earlier times, the owner had to pay 80,000 euros for energy, now only 40,000. He is happy. That's its 2 slides. We are going to keep all the activities, all plants in our own hand. So we plan a new fermentable plant for biomass by our waste management company for the biomass which is collected from the kitchens, more than 15,000 tons per year from private households. We want to produce 10,000 tons of digestate at fertilizer. You see the colored building is only a plan. And important is we gave a lot of electricity power also in the grid. And now my last slide, excuse me. Perhaps a lot of people know a German man called Friedrich Wilhelm Raiffeisen. He lived in the 19th century. He's the founder of the worldwide acting cooperative movement. And I have on the left side a paper with a special sentence. Normally it's in Germany, but for you it's easier to read. His vision was the money of the village shall remain within the village. That was for the farmers and for collecting the harbor and so on, and to buy the fertilizer, by the village, by hundreds of people for a better price. I think we do it in the same way. We want to produce our energy. We want to keep the value added in the region. And so I think Mr. Raiffeisen is looking on top of the seal to us and is very glad. And excuse me that I'm a little bit proud because there are 3 awards: European Solar Award, Renewable Energy Award in Brussels, and in the middle, Rio Tarragona know it. We were the community of the decade. And one sentence at last: it always seems impossible until it's done. That's for Nelson Mandela. I think everybody should start, should do it, and should not be anxious. Thank you. I apologize again. Kiitos to Finland and Pachain Terveisen. I hope it's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bertram, for these very kind words, and also once again for the impressive presentation of the work you have done in what you have achieved in the Rhein-Hunsrück district. Also, thank you for presenting despite the technical difficulties. Now I can again pass on the microphone to Pekka. As I introduced earlier, he's the energy. He's a senior advisor at the Vasa Energy Business Innovation Center at the University of Vasa in Finland, and one of the very pioneers of renewable energy in Finland. Pekka.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for Bertram, because I think you touched the most important things also in my presentation. And even if I've been an environmentalist, I very seldom talk about climate change. I talk about the economy because it is already really, really important. It's wise, it's reasonable, and it's highly possible. And I am very convinced that in this context, the small communities and rural regions, they will be in the very forefront in the whole transition process, which is a very, very societal process, but as you have shown, it is so possible in small communities. Like Rötara said, I've been studying energy ever since 2003. Even before that, when I had my private sector adventure, I was 5 years a director in one particular institute within the university. But last June, I jumped back to the topic of energy, which is very important for me. But as you see, my basic education as a biologist, you can probably see as my hobbies. I've also worked in administration, and like I said, I had also a private company in environmental business. But here's the main logic I have, and this is about the same that Bertram also told, that we know that renewable energy, it is more than enough. That is based on research, based on international literature, and so forth. Different kinds of renewables, they will be, we can cover all energy production use by renewable energies. We also know that most or many single technical solutions, they already have very, very good economy, some fairly good, but what we heard just previously, so the regional economy has a huge potential. What we really don't yet have as established is mainly the systemic level solutions, that how to bind these technical single separate solutions into systems in for instance, these small villages. But as we saw in Bertram's presentation, this will be more and more possible. We also have these other drivers which really are important, but maybe it's not the time now to go deeper in these. But the consequences are that we really are on our way from fossil fuels towards the renewable energies. This also means that the energy content per unit is so much smaller than in fossil fuels. So it must mean that the long-term or global logistics will be more expensive, even impossible. And it means logically that regional, even local, smaller scale production will become very important. And I think we have to direct ourselves towards more systemic solutions. Single separate solutions will be important, but to bind them into wholeness, whole functioning systems will be more and more important. And we have to cover all energies, not only electricity or heating. It's also transport fuels, it's machines, it's industries and so forth. But what are the small communities? For us, and we have named it energy villages, they are small regions where we have inhabitants, settlement, roads, but we also have the impact area, forests, cultivation grounds, and so forth. And theoretically, a region consists of this kind of smaller units, and this is the smallest, like an atom within a region. And theoretically, this region can provide its all energy by renewable energies from within the own region. And more than that, rural regions will have the potential to sell energy outwards. Here's a picture of a typical case. It's an old picture, but it shows the same story that Bertram's figure showed, that the bars left are in this case only bioenergy potential per region or separate municipalities. The smaller this municipality, the more the potential is in comparison with the potential. The right bar contains only electricity and heating, but the left bar only contains bioenergy. And because we didn't in that case calculate wind power or solar power, which would multiply the bars. But the conclusion, the resources are there. We also already touched about the regional economy, and we know that in our calculations that the average sum of money spent to energy is between 4,000 and 5,000 euros in Finland, rural regions, which is a huge sum of money per person, per family. But even if we take a village, 100 person, 500,000, 1,000 persons is 5 million. But if we take a number of villages, we get a really big number, a big amount of money, that, as we heard in Bertram's presentation as well. In the Jepua village, which also Marco mentioned, and we have been working a long time with them, we just counted that if the region would produce all its energy by renewables, it would produce 7.5 million euros and more, about 50 jobs. But if it sold it energy outwards 50%, it would mean already 90 jobs, which is really remarkable. And this region really has the potential to do this. They already have this biogas plant, which, by the way, was erected from initiative from our project. And they have now expanded it about double. They have transfer fuel and they sell it to industries. This is a long table, don't read it, but I just picked two numbers here about the regional economy. Kaustinen region, containing a number of municipalities, would produce 74.4 million euros every year to keep the money within the region by using renewable energies from within its own region. And only for agriculture, it would produce about 20 million euros, which is more than the subsidies for farming, which is basically the income by which they live. So we understand that the vitality, employment, whatever, would be really important for the rural regions. And this is also what we saw in Bertram's example already put into practice. Another thing is that renewable energy is about the same as rural region, because the surfaces where all the plants can grow, all the biomaterials grow, wind blows, sun is shining, the surfaces are in rural regions. And also, what would be more beneficial for rural regions than to utilize it? I've also said that the production of energy or harvesting raw materials for renewable energy would mean a completely new societal role for rural regions, which also is very important. It's more and more realized today whenever we discuss it. So this is something that people in rural regions, they realize that this is a big thing for them, or could be potentially for them. Well, the other thing is that we are talking about potential, and the other end is a readily made system, and there's a hell of a lot of things in the middle before we get a readily made system. Bertram showed that they have really gone a long way, but coming to how this can be put into practice is that we, well, more as a social and society-wide process, I usually say that this is much more, and even primarily something else than a technical exercise. It is a societal process where all the stakeholders must be included in the process. Without social acceptance, without enterprises, without all the other stakeholders joining the process, it will not be possible. And this is one of the basics by which we have designed this energy village concept and product portfolio. Unfortunately, there's not time to present all the different tools and different ways of doing, but it starts with the commitment of people doing all the calculations, showing the potential, and so forth. But when we presented this, we got quite good responses from very high level, and already 6 years ago, a very high level person said that this is a good idea. The way to put this into practice is very complicated, this also, but the first level, of course, would be to initiate, just to erect single separate units of production of energy. The other step would be that there's a lot of them, and we can calculate that this might cover the whole production of energy, and the higher level would still be that these systems would be constructed into functioning systems. We also have to remember that the sustainable energy not only means production of energy, it also means minimizing the consumption of energy. So we talk about rational use of energy by different ways of technical possibilities. And then we, of course, have to also produce energy. And there we have these renewable energy technologies. And by different combinations of this, we can then produce different degrees of energy self-sufficiency. And again, one more picture about how to put this into practice. We usually, when we go to a village, we follow this procedure that we will take all the stakeholders with us. We let them to say that the vision and define all the possibilities towards implementation. Of course, there must be some technical expertise and technology providers to put this in a realistic base. But this is just to depict the character of the process that we really need to take all the stakeholders with us. Some conclusions. I think this is very important in terms of environment, but the and the process towards sustainability, it is very, very necessary. But the other side is that it's a long societal process. Also, we know that the opponents are very strong. Those who today do business by energy are very, very strong, very established actors, and to compete them in real-time markets is very difficult. But in this process, energy sector is very important. This will also have very, very important implications in terms of business models in regions. If we suppose that production of energy is moved to smaller scales, is moved towards the villages, towards the smaller units, what's the role of big energy utilities? If also the systemic level is moved to energy village concepts and smaller units, what's the role of energy utilities in the future? Also, the energy utilities realize that this is happening, and well, it's mainly up to them to consider how they would react. Either they could be an active partner in creating this kind of system and this kind of structure, which is a long-term goal, or then they can oppose it. But more and more, I've seen that energy utilities are turning to be active partners. And if we take a vision, concluding all of this, what I've told is that we could really create a new structure into the energy sector, which means that the centralized system doesn't disappear, but its role could be moved to serve energy intensive industries and larger population centers, and it also might change and alter its raw material base. But the other side is that to construct this distributed strategy, what the renewable energy is mainly all about. I just show a couple of pictures at the end of a lot of material which I will not go through, but I will just try to encourage that a disruptive change has taken place so many times. Here you can see New York in 1900. There's one car in the street, and only 13 years later, there's maybe you can see one horse in the street. So in the history, this kind of disruptive changes have been possible and have taken place. My prediction is that the energy sector will experience this kind of disruptive change in terms of turning to and shifting to renewable energies. Thank you.
Thank you, Pekka, for these very interesting remarks, and with the ending with the encouraging message. That will wrap up the first session, and we will certainly hear more about the term of energy village later in this conference, and also I think the microgrid approach is already practiced in the Rhein-Hunsrück area. So Pekka, whenever you have the opportunity to visit the Rhein-Hunsrück, it's highly recommended. So after the, well, more or less overarching remarks in session one, we would like to have a closer look into the actual work done in the Lecco project. And first up is Ian Brannigan. He is the head of the regional development at the Western Development Commission in Ireland. And WDC is one of our project partners in Ireland. And he will tell us how we approach the communities in the Northern Periphery and Arctic region in order to accelerate their local energy transition. Ian.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
And everyone, can you see the Third screen, yeah, that's great. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the timing.
Excuse me, and you might have to turn on the full screen mode of your presentation. It's still you can still see the PowerPoint menu and everything. Yeah, there you go. Great.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'll try and get us back on track before I go into the presentation. Just say that this, of course, is something that has been done by one of our colleagues, Dr. Orlanik Suna, and I'm really just reflecting on her work through this presentation. So interesting if there are questions later on, maybe we can get back to people. So I'll move on anyway. So how to accelerate the energy transition in NPA communities. As has been said, we're looking at some of the work in the project at this stage. And it would be remiss of me as I view you from the foot of Ben Bulben Mountain here in the west of Ireland, and not to at least send out a little message about what we do in the WDC we are. So for those who know us, hi. For our friends in the renewable energy community out in the west, that is great. For new friends, just to let you know, we are a regional development commission for the west of Ireland, serving a population of around 800,000. In terms of renewable energy, we've been working on this for many years based on our natural assets. We have 40% of the afforested area in the state of Ireland. We have nowhere near that amount of value chain involvement. And the WDC has for many years been working on European projects, specifically on renewable energy. Some of the previous ones we've worked on this resulted in outputs. Some people around the screen helped us get there, including access to finance models for renewable energy, escrow contracts, and changing of fuel provision to heat provision for local companies. So we're delighted to have worked on a community project for the last number of years, which really is an evolution of our work, both as a direct involvement in change within the west of Ireland, but also as a kind prompter to the government in terms of policy change. So as I say, you can see the link there. Visit it and give us some feedback on what you see. In terms of the actual specifics of the project in Lecco and the Western Development Commission's role in it, you all know this is a project that has been going for some time now, a little over 3 years at this point. And the project aimed really to enable communities in our region to become self-sufficient regarding energy. We mean to do this through a number of ways, but one of the really important things about this, of course, we do live in a peripheral region. We are one of the most sparsely populated regions of our country, although comparatively that is not the case in Northern Europe and places like that. But all of our communities, is important to give them the tools to allow them to move into renewable energy in a meaningful way through it. So we engage with numerous communities that were already working within this realm, and we had met over the years. And there is a good framework in Ireland through the Sustainable Energy Communities, which is run by our Sustainable Energy Authority in Ireland. And we engage with this both through meetings, ongoing work, and also feasibility studies, which we procured, and then we could see what the benefit this gave to communities. And one of the good things about the engagement, the information sharing amongst LECo partnership is that we, at least in one of our communities, now proceeding to planning phase for microhydro project. We're hopeful that this actually results not just in us setting up frameworks, the support and the planning and information for communities to move into sustainable renewable energy initiatives, but as I said, there is actually some that are now moving forward in that in a tangible way. In the main, we were responsible for really two main outputs, biz modeling and the online training platform, which we will mention and go over now. In terms of the online training platform, our approach to local energy will focused on the three main pillars I've already mentioned. Engagement. So we engaged with our communities. We'll go on to see tangibly means in terms of when and how. We raised awareness and shared best practice. We also went through energy modeling scenarios and delivering specifically community sustainable action plans. We'll mention later on to the point where business plans and plans templates were created and are on our online training platform and are being used by many of our communities in the wider partnership. There was also the development of an energy village strategic planning and implementation. Again, others have spoken about this. We'll go on. This is a well-known have a transfer. We get to the state of a sustainable energy community within our region. So outputs on the online platform, which are available, and link to it. Things like contributions to policy papers. We have done individual Fossell analysis and across we can identify common barriers that we can perhaps sort of coherent and cohesive approach to solving. We have looked at ownership models for energy communities, financing of these community projects. There have been several study tours involved in the case of the west of Ireland, due to our life cycle, I guess. In this, really, we were sending a lot of people from local authorities, from energy communities, over and see what best practice is, and tours to Germany, which involved many community members, and we'll get some feedback on that later. As I mentioned before, we've done feasibility studies around the energy village, and we've outlined the multi-stage model for achieving this. And we've done preparation of fact sheets and best practice case studies. I mentioned in the previous slide, some of these best practice studies and work have led to some communities now moving forward. And again, most of this is rolled up on this online training platform, which is really the synthesis of all of the knowledge that we've created in sheets, training, webinar, information, policy input, and that's all there to be used by the team members and other generations in the future. So, as I said, we're package leaders for the output of the training platform and the business model. The training platform is available at the local energy community. And this now resides with Centria University. So it has a legacy and will be sustainable for years. This hosts all of the final output reports, as I mentioned, from Lecco and other communities. Anyone that wants to look at this, it's a pro bono initiative designed to encapsulate our work and share it with. So as mentioned before, some of the things that are on this are barriers to community energy projects, ownership options for communities, finance options for community energy projects. And this linked in as well to some of the other project work that we've seen across Europe and best practice. The free project, which had an online search function for funding and financing for community projects. There are case studies of successful community energy projects and feasibility studies and policy inputs in terms of energy project development based on best practice across the park. Now, getting down to a little bit more brass tacks and what these meetings meant and how they resulted in positive impact upon our communities. One of the things we did was, from our impact, or from our point of view here in the west of Ireland, we organised a lot of webinars and training events where we brought people into things related to community energy policy, community energy development, and also master classes in how this becomes reality. Examples of this, I think, are in quite a large one in Raheen Woods in Galway in December 2019. It was the community-owned energy in Ireland, lessons learned from Germany and Denmark. And I think many of you around the screen were probably at that, people, which seems an unimaginable amount of people now in these days, but a full hall with a lot of engagement and interaction. And we also had a large online audience for that. The event was chaired by the CEO of our energy agency, or Tipperary Energy Agency, Paul Kenny, and we got many people from departments here, the government in Ireland, as well as international partners to come and discuss, contrast and compare their various auction systems, how they worked, how communities could access them in various countries. And of course, it helped greatly to inform the department here in Ireland's plan for the RES and its approach to the auction system for renewable energy going forward. Other examples of how this engagement and interaction with communities on a ground level was used was the energy plan training, which was completed in February 2019. It involved numerous community members learning how to model energy systems, looking at and using the advanced tool, the energy plan tool, and this was done very kindly by one of the speakers, Robert Fisher, and assisted by Xavier. And this went down very well and really showed our local communities how we could positive conduit through the Lecco project for knowledge and tangible input moving forward community energy. Now, as I mentioned, there were a couple of study trips, but they didn't all just come here. We also went out into the wider world. This was really something that we've done before in the past with mixed results, but I have to say, particularly with the dynamic of the Lecco team and also with the type of outputs that were earmarked by the partnership, this was particularly successful. You see many of the members there on one of our trips. And Helen and Orla and Pauline from the WBC would have gone out with local participants from the energy community. We would have brought back a lot of best practice knowledge, contacts, and really momentum to get these things moving. I've included here just a little feedback from one such participant, Joe, who is head of the local energy office. He went to Germany and he thought it was a fantastic opportunity to see how communities' own energy projects can participate in energy transition. And now they're looking proactively at similar opportunities in sustainable energy. People found it very positive, and it has begun a positive dialogue with us in terms of the other instruments we can provide, finance, support, and mentoring in order to get more sustainable energy projects up and running in the west of Ireland. Now, going back to the online training platform, in terms of the legacy, this is really for everyone involved in the project. We try to put out some things from the barrier examples were highlighted as being particularly beneficial. So we did fact sheets on various renewable energy sources to really, in a very, very design-oriented way, interact with communities, and simplify both the technology in a certain sense, but also the access to it in terms of consideration for local energy. So here you see solar panels with photovoltaic and air source heat pumps. These are available on our online platform, and we've also done similar ones around wind and other energy sources, biomass. These fact sheets are all available. As I say, they're very design friendly. They're something that was done by the team, and it came out of a direct analysis of the need to lower barriers in terms of sharing information and simplifying it. Communities who have perhaps a willingness to get into some sort of energy development, however, they really need to have the information imparted in easily digestible and very helpful in moving and motivating people to move forward with more dedicated action. Now, in terms of raising events, raising awareness and dissemination, as I said, I mentioned the study trips, we mentioned the conference in Raheen Woods, we've mentioned the master classes in terms of energy plan. In terms of Ireland, we also went deep into a lot of the government-run and stakeholder things, stakeholder initiatives, so that we could understand where the national support framework was going. But we linked this very, very closely with the local community. See from the mix of events that were here, we go right to things that involve the government and government departments, and also bring them back down to see what the actual market information is. And particularly good examples of this are comparisons between the National Bioenergy Conference and then the community energy tour in Eris, which is one of the westerly and most sparsely populated areas of our region. And by linking the two together, we try to inform the emerging policy in the most way possible. We also worked very hard with linking with other suitable European projects, so that when communities were looking to engage in energy development, renewable energy development, path towards this. And some of the projects in which Lecco was very, very good at working towards were, we mentioned one down here, the Redirect Conference in Morris in the west of Ireland. Why is this important? Well, it's important because out of that we had two companies, heat systems and Rigna Coal, which is quite a large hydrocarbon coal producer here in the west of Ireland, who have directly moved into biomass and bio-compliant products on the back of working with this community of renewable energy. In this case, they're looking at activated charcoal products made from biomass feedstock. Also, as a sort of a speaker mentioned, we shouldn't blow our own trumpet too much, but the Earl was indeed appointed climate ambassador, which is an annual thing, which is a real pat on the back for the project. ASCA is one of the oversight bodies that look after the environment here in Ireland. So there was clear appreciation for the project at a high level, and also from a peer review. There's a little bit more detail there on the Germany trips, as I said, where the community energy groups actually went to. We've already mentioned some of the feedback. So in terms of, I'll move this along to try and catch back up some of the time, but I think engagement and co-analysis of need was one of the really important things in the out in terms of getting communities to engage in sustainable energy. And the online platform, as I've already outlined, in terms of was key to this. One of the things was to, from us, was our approach, as mentioned here, was initiate engagement with relevant stakeholders and working with local inhabitants, community energy operators, energy agencies, social enterprises, and municipalities or local authorities, as in Ireland, really helped us get into understanding what the barriers were and in the project. As I said down there, we organise workshops, seminars, surveys, Fossell analysis. A small example there in the graphic on the right hand side of what that actually led to, but on our website you see pest analysis for the individual partner countries in a consolidated one, which shows really a summary of what we felt were the overarching barriers in terms of technical governance, to really that needed to be addressed in order to move the community energy project initiative forward. So finally, the potential value, I think, of Lecco and its approach to really energizing momentum. We now know that electricity markets are changing in Ireland. We have adopted the RES, or in the process of it, in it, an auction-based process, which is very much in line with Europe, and really a lot of our communities have felt very much involved in that process. They will, of course, have views on it, but we have to make sure that the consultation and the involvement from a constructive and critical point of view. So communities can now be involved to a greater degree. They also have the resources of the online platform, which allows them information, plan models, etc., to allow them to go ahead and really make some decisions in terms of degree of involvement. The network developed. This network, as has been mentioned by other speakers and myself, it's not just a local one in the west of Ireland. They're truly transnational, and something that Century University and the platform we hope for years. Tangible outputs like the fact sheets, the model business plans, and pro bono access, tools and the leadership to allow communities to really feel that this is something that's not just a drawdown model or something that they can love. We seek to really make them understand the stewardship of this in terms of future generations. This links very much in our own work with what we're doing on trying to address sea plastic eradication and mitigation in the seas around our coasts. So we have it both on land and in the marine environment. We have the same circular economy approach. And that's really important to build these communities of change. LECo is really we have a business model, as I say, planned, outlined out there, as well as the business plan, and those are templates that can be used by even the most what would you say, nascent energy community out there. We also provide them with SWOT analysis templates. Now we have context and context to move these communities forward and trying to embed energy and sustainable energy models within our communities. So finally, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for your patience. I hope that hasn't been too long. And a huge thank you to Orla, all the work she's done on this, and Helen and Paul, I know shared with you in the past. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ian, for your comprehensive overview and the reflection. And I think you're thanking Ola also on our behalf. It was a great pleasure working with her. And before we head to the coffee break, now let's once more focus on and have a more closer look at how communities in Lecco actually develop their own energy plans. Ian has already mentioned the energy plan seminars by Robert Fischer, who is a researcher at the Luleå University of Technology in Sweden, and he will show us how he taught the communities to develop their energy plans. Robert.
Okay, thank you, Ryotaro. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, okay, and you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, a brief introduction to myself. I have been, I grew up in Austria and have been working in the energy industry there for about 10 years. And then I had the opportunity to work in developing countries where I had a position at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in Uganda, and then 5 years in South Africa, where I worked with small communities, rural communities, off-grid communities where I installed solar systems and water supplies, etc. Returning to Europe, I ended up in Stockholm due to my Swedish wife, and returned to academia, which was a long dream I wanted to realize. Yeah, now I'm at a PhD candidate at Luleå and was involved in this project. Just allow me to give you a very quick overview about our department. We have 4 major areas where we operate with our research. We have, let me just find the pointer here, remote control. How can I find the pointer? I don't see the pointer. Okay, no. Can you see my mouse at least? We have 4, as I said, 4 research areas. Don't go into detail here, but I think the main field where I am working in is energy systems analysis. And here we have a few sub areas like policy analysis, national, regional, municipal and energy systems analysis, and so on. And this is where the, this is where the LECo project fits in municipal energy systems analysis. We had a similar project before that, Arctic energy. And I think interact with the approach that to bring together partners from several countries in similar regions has a huge benefit to all the participating partners, as we can learn from where the different countries and partners are on the pathway to to become like carbon neutral. We have seen Germany has done a lot in the past and reached quite far, where other countries are like Ireland but also Sweden, and then an earlier project partner Norway are still behind in enabling like community energy projects and also understanding especially this potential of creating local added value. So how does a community energy project start? Does it start with some engineers with the plastic hats and they say we have a plan? Or does it start with some very inspiring citizens in the community and they say I have a dream? And the dream can be just to put a solar panel on the roof, or a dream can be, okay, let's make the whole community carbon neutral. And I think what we have seen in the project now and also from the study trips, it actually starts with a dream from a few people. And it's very important, I think, what we also have heard in our work is it shouldn't only be one person. You're very lonely if you are only one. And Bertram also put it out very clearly that as soon as I think you get local politicians on board, then things can really get rolling. So what is a typical Lecco community which we have worked with? We have a brief look on that. And then I give a few examples of energy projects which emerged out of our work. And then we have a brief look on tools, where I think the next speaker, Silva, will go into more details of tools which were developed during the work. And finally, which outcomes do we get when we do energy planning with a more systemic approach? So the typical Lecco community, of course, can we really talk about the typical when we look at the 3 or 4 very different countries which the project actually included. Finland and Sweden might be quite similar because we have this huge land area, very low population density, and then quite perhaps concentrated municipalities, but still a few smaller communities around them. And then Germany, very tightly populated, and also on the pathway to carbon neutrality quite far in the future as compared to Ireland, for example. And that was also one of the driving ideas in this project, to learn from each other. Yeah, small towns, groups in small towns representing perhaps a suburb or just a part of a suburb are part of Lecco. And then we have the very rural areas where also very small villages with a few hundred households or even less have participated, or only a group which wanted to renovate the community building. Like in Sweden, we have this Folkets Hus movement, which is a meeting point for the village, and they have been starting to be built in more than 100 years ago, and many of them need really renovations and improving on the energy efficiency part. Okay. I think the approach of Lecco was a mixed one, like top-down. Of course, it was initiated by institutions like WDC and then municipality in Jokkmokk in Sweden, and then of course university like us and in Kokkola. But on the other end, we wanted actually to be the enabler for bottom-up approaches. Yeah? And out of that, of course, we were not limiting any project ideas to what we had in mind. So we wanted really to enable the groups, those citizens who have a dream, to get on the train and get going and develop their project ideas. And we had very, very beautiful examples in Bertram's presentation about how they went about information campaigns about capacity building. And he showed clearly that capacity building needs to start in the kindergarten already. And that were really nice examples, which we were also able to visit on the study trip. Gamification and making fun out of it, like his example to find the oldest fridge in the village was really fun. Other gamification approaches are that when you start monitoring your energy consumption, you can compete with your neighbors, and there are like apps on your mobile phone available where you can compare your energy use in the neighborhood. So these examples came up during this period. Then, of course, the low-hanging fruits, energy efficiency, where you spend little money, but have some direct impact on your energy costs with LEDs, and then slightly more investment costs, putting additional insulation in your roof and replacing old appliances, etc. And perhaps also, if you have central heating, adjust heating controls, like 3 degrees higher or lower temperature when going about cooling or heating can save like already 10% of your energy costs. And then the bigger cost projects, heating, heat pumps, replacing other heating technologies with heat pumps, complementing it with solar thermal to support hot water, but also to contribute in heating during the cold period. And then, of course, especially in Ireland, I think replacing peat and gas and oil with renewable fuels have been options and ideas and projects coming out of this LECo. And then last but not least, first we save energy, we implement energy efficiency, and then we replace more and more the fossil based supplies with renewables. And there are again small projects are possible on rooftops, or we have ground mounted large scale projects possible, and also like looked at during the LECo project. I put transport and district heating in brackets because I don't think we had any LECo projects there, but it was very interesting to see also in Germany, which is a very automobile addicted country, very similar to Sweden as well. Sweden has these long distances, which Germany not really has, but the addiction to its own car is also visible in Sweden, and that it is actually possible even in a country like Germany to make people to change their behavior and use the electric cars which have been provided by the authority or by a small project which we have seen. Okay, which factors actually influence then the choice for LECo projects? What we've seen is, of course, it is an important driving factor if the community already has experience with organizing itself. Is there a cooperative approach for other things? Was it done before? Was something similar done before? It was mentioned that Raiffeisen was like the founder of cooperative approaches, and Germany and also Austria have a lot of cooperatives in the farming area. And I think that also is a huge historically available that experience in Finland and Sweden as well. I'm not so sure about Ireland there. So experience, have we done something together? Then that can of course more easily lead to projects. The socioeconomic situation in the community, even in European countries, we started to talk about energy poverty. So are there approaches which actually really look first at those pensioners or low-income households which spend like 20–30% of their household income on energy? How can we help them first, and then go along with other projects later? And then the building stocks, of course, if we have houses from the 50s or older, then the investment in those houses reducing energy consumption by 50% will have a higher impact than a similar investment in a house built in the 90s or in the early 2000s. So, and then of course we have more external impact factors, like what are the country's policies, is there availability of funding for community energy projects, and very crucial we found in our analysis as well was, is there technical support available from like an energy advisor at the local authority, municipality, or independent energy agencies which can actually act independently and not advise, okay, you need to build solar or you need to build biomass. So this was a crucial factor for successful community energy projects as well. And then, as I said before, it's you cannot do it alone. You need support from even from the local decision makers, local politicians, and then the things really start to roll. Yeah. Again, energy planning is perhaps not necessary for very, very small projects. Then you don't need to take a system approach. The pathway from I have a dream to perhaps a solar thermal heating system on a soccer club a house is not over energy system analysis, but is over like a few members in the club who are inspired, and they just do it with the words "yes, we can" in mind. After small projects, communities and community members get keen, and then it is possible to start to dream and think about bigger projects. But then, of course, it is important to go about it with a more professional approach, creating pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies with some professional support. And this can often come from this, what I mentioned before, independent energy agencies. And we have also heard in the study trips in Germany, coming back to that again, where we had very good presentations also. And there it was mentioned, yes, in the beginning you do projects here and there, but when you really want to maximize this local added value and the local value creation, and that, for example, taxes which contribute to local municipalities' budgets, which then can be spent on kindergartens and so on. If you want to maximize really the return of investment in the local community, then a systemic approach is unavoidable. To learn, okay, what are the resources in the community, forestry, agriculture, industries, and so on. So which tools have we used in Lecco and which have been proven to be useful? First, we started to look inside. So what is available? What is the actual situation in the community? We had questionnaires, we had interviews, we had seminars or workshops with community people. So to understand, first of all, what is out there, the building stock, the heating systems, how is the electricity consumption. And then, of course, also to build interest with the workshops, to also to understand which skills are available in the community, and what experience already is there. And the results from this inside looking is, of course, data. Every energy planning, energy system planning needs input data, reliable input data. And then also first step to also learning is to visualize what we actually talk about in diagrams and graphs and figures, etc. So it's very, very often energy is very abstract. You cannot feel it, you cannot smell it, but you have to make sure that people get a feeling about it, and visualization of like this is important. And then part of Lecco was also to look around in what key factors influence the community from the outside, and this was carried out with a PESTLE analysis. PESTLE stands for like the key factors of political, like policies and local authorities, economic, sociological, technological, legal, and environmental key factors. So for the energy system approach, we had to look, okay, which software is available. Now we get a bit more technical. The selection criteria for us in the project was the software should be free or very low cost, should be easy to learn, and there should be support available, of course, if we get troubles and problems with it. No software is free of bugs. So that was important. Low requirements on data input. It should be possible to run or implement a model with at least with available public data, with little effort to also put the data into the system. And it should also cover different sectors, not only electricity, but heating and also transport sector. And important for us was also that it provides a quite high granularity in the results, on hourly results, as we look at renewable energy like wind and solar. We have to understand the impacts of like sun is shining during the day, but the energy consumption is in the evening. How does storage impact on self-consumption and so on? We found that after some research and also from early experiences, we found that the tool Energy Plan developed by a group at Aalborg University was suitable, and this fulfills the mentioned criteria and also other criteria, like it allows a very quick simulation of many options or scenarios, and that was very helpful in developing some of the sustainable energy action plans, which was intended outcome of the project. This is how very let's say components of energy plan are implemented and linked to each other with energy flows. From the left side, like different resources and supplies, and then we have conversions with the let's say the yellow blocks, conversion blocks, hydropower plants and heat pumps, etc. And towards the right-hand side, you have the definitions of the different demands for electricity and heating and transport, etc. How does it look like? We have user interfaces for defining demand. This example is for heating, individual heating in the upper part and district heating in the lower part. And then this is a slide on supply side where we can enter different variable renewable electricity production, like hydro power plants, photovoltaic, and onshore wind and offshore wind, and so on. And then, of course, we have the cost tabs, investment costs, economic lifetime, and fixed operation and maintenance costs, and so on, and other. And then there are other sheets for other technical details for the different technologies. What do you get out of such an approach, where we entered for most of the communities, both the electricity part and the heating part? You get on one side a number of graphs which you can easily copy and paste in reports. As we talked about visualization, you can change the time period you look at, an entire year or months or weeks or even certain days. This is useful when you want to observe how like solar and consumption matches, and and so on. But on the other side, you also get a lot of, let's say, raw data in tabular format, which you can export to Excel and create your own diagrams. And there are some predefined formats in Energy Plan, which give like a more compiled overview about the energy system, which you have just modeled. So the process in our approach was and almost always is, when you do an energy system approach, you create a reference case, you create an energy system model, which is always like a simplified view of reality. And then the next steps are to think about, okay, what are the most realistic options to implement? Efficiency, solar energy, heat pumps, and so on. And then you get results like this, which we have done for 13 examples in this project. From the left-hand side, you have all the energy consumption stapled up in these blocks. Like the lower part is electricity import, electricity consumption. Then we have biomass consumption in this case, and we have district heating. And as we go along and implement different options, we see that we can reduce energy consumption by improve the efficiency. Then we add solar energy locally. That means we reduce the imported electricity, and so on. We go along with different options which are feasible in this community project. In other cases, we had micro hydropower, for example. We had biogas plants, which we implemented in energy plan, and could present nicely to the communities. Okay, the outcomes then from this work package where I was involved and responsible for was then finally, after all this work of like understanding the policy, the what is around the community and inside assessments of getting data, we get what we called and named, inspired by the by other terms. We called it the Community Sustainable Energy and Action Plans. We had finally produced 3 for Finland and 5 for Ireland and 5 for Sweden, which then through our project partners have been used in workshops, etc., to work together with the people on the ground. So the content of this included an overview about policies and regulatory frameworks which affected this project, an overview about available funding sources in the different countries, and then we analyzed the supply potentials, what solar, wind potential, is there hydropower potential, is there biomass potential in the community, and then of course the results from the systems approach. We have the tabular input data, we present the reference energy system, and then we go through the scenario assumption and present the scenario results as shown in the previous slide. And then out of that, an action plan is recommended, and that is what was also then taken out to the community, I think, to go further with more detailed studies, I think, beyond this project. Business plans have been set up, but the actual project implementation will come after this project. So how do we look at what outcomes we got from this community energy planning? I think an important, most important for me, and when I also worked with communities in Africa, but in Sweden and others, is actually to get a better understanding of our energy consumption, of our behavior, how behavior actually influences energy consumption, and what are the potentials for saving, what are the potentials for renewable energy supply, what are the potentials for local value creation, as it was mentioned. How much money is flowing out of the community, how much can we keep inside the community. The outside factors are important to consider. So learning takes place during the entire process. I think that was an important learning as well for us as a university. And then we get a reference case, which can then be used to build scenarios and have validated data and have a good understanding of the costs of money flowing out of the community. And then the scenarios with different assumptions can then lead to like a good technical overview of what is possible, and also like giving outcomes, outputs on the financial parameters and also environmental parameters. The software tools also, of course, calculate carbon emissions and other environmental factors. And last but not least, the community, in participating communities and groups in the Lecco, have an energy action plan which they can work with in the future. Yeah, with this, I want to say Kiitos, danke in German, and tack in Swedish, and thank you for your interest. And of course, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Robert, for this deep dive to the methodology applied in Lecco for the energy planning. And Before Silva tells us what of all this is available to everyone interested, we are heading to a brief coffee break of about 10 minutes. So we will gather again at 11:05 Finnish time, 10:05 German time, and in Irish time it would be 9:05. See you in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Hi, Rioto. This is Silva. I'm just, should I share my screen? Should I go on the share screen button now, do you think?
After the coffee break, yeah?
Yeah, but does it mean that anyone else has to stop?
I have stopped sharing
yeah.
now.
Okay.
You are a host and you just click on your share screen button.
Yes, okay. Good. Perfect.
Okay, welcome back everybody to the LECo conference here at the Coca-Cola Material Week. Let's go swiftly move on in the agenda. So after Robert has introduced to energy plan and how we approached the communities to analyze their energy situation and make a strategic plan to increase the situation. Next up is Silva Herman. She's a project manager at our second Swedish project partner, the municipality of Jokkmokk in North Sweden, and she will show us the Lecco toolkit. So it's a toolkit not only available to the communities participating in the project, but to all of you who are interested. Silva.
Thank you. Let me see whether I can share my screen and everything is working. Hopefully it does. Yeah, my name is Silva Herman, working as a project manager at Jokkmokk municipality at the Arctic Circle. Maybe you stayed with your computer during the break, then you could see a short glimpse of the video we did for our pilot community. And with that, some views about the region we are working in. This is a very short presentation. I just want to pick some of the tools and start with a little bit more general things. Well, I thought that I would, but yeah. So we are not ants, actually. If we would be, we would have buildings like this one, with excellent ventilation, a very good insulation. We would use renewable energies. We wouldn't produce any waste. We had no energy costs. And that might play a role. We had a society with only women in power. Actually, the situation is not like that. We have buildings which look like more this one, like this one. We use a lot of dirty fossil fuels still, and that costs a lot of money. So we might have a problem. And if you agree with me, then you might be interested in the tools that we developed in the Lecco project. And if I use the word you, it means for me that you might be a community member. You might be someone from the university world, from the academia, or you might be a local and regional authority. And we heard already in the presentations so far a lot about the tools and what, oops, it doesn't work, I don't know. Sorry for that. Now my, okay. So what I just want to focus on is our Lecco one-stop shop. You heard already about that a little bit earlier in the presentation. Our learning center, local energy communities net. And here you find all the reports, and I listed them. and we heard more about some of them already. What I want to do is to focus on just 3 of them, a very, very short look at them. What I would recommend specifically if you are a community is to dive into the LECo webinars. There are quite a lot of them, and you see a screenshot of the website where you find them. There's a point webinars, and there's a list of them. And you both can see a lot about the energy scenario planning. You see about you have webinars on policy issues, but you also have, for example, very hands-on webinars on energy efficiency for your community buildings. So that might be worth to check out. A next thing that I would like to focus on, or which I would like to present here, is the Energy Village Strategic Plan. And this is because this includes a very concrete way of or proposal for an energy planning process with different steps. And this comes with a template which you can use directly as it is for developing your strategic plan. And last but not least, we already talked about that. If you have done all the work, if you have a motivated group of people, when you have done your strategic planning, you probably need a business plan. And doing a business plan is a lot of work. So that what we can provide you with is at least a template. And this is a Word file that you can download. So this is easy to handle. And you have really a comprehensive document which you can fill in. And of course, you might not need every headline. So then you just skip that part. But we hope that we can offer you something to save some time to produce a valid business plan. So this was very short. I will finish with just one picture with a recommendation. You do not need to reinvent the wheel, just perfect it and use the tools. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Silva, for this punchy and quick introduction to the Lecco toolkit, which is certainly useful to all the communities out there who are interested into well, not reinvent, but optimize their energy systems. This will also wrap up our session 2, looking at the work done in Lecco, and now we headed to session 3, which is focusing, looking even closer at the pilot communities developed in Lecco. So we, the Lecco project didn't happen in the vacuum, just on the paper, but we actually did collaborate with local communities, of course, who were seeking to well, kickstart their energy transition locally. And so next up is Aisling Nick Eoid from our Irish project partner Udarasna Galtachta, which is a Gaelic-speaking development agency. And she will tell us a little more about the pilot communities that we developed in Lecco. Aisling.
Thank you, Roger. I'd just like to say that this presentation is really focused on the citizens and empowering them to get engaged in their communities. So I'd just like to thank all the speakers for very interesting presentations. And there's one or two things that stood out for me, I suppose, that what Bertram mentioned is, you know, you need to get children involved, even as young as in kindergarten. It's always the most successful projects seem to be those that involve young people and old people. And secondly, what Marco said, when we're forced into changing our habits, we can change very, very quickly. So we can make changes quickly, say, as he mentioned, like the coronavirus, that we can just adapt very quickly. So this presentation is about how to become an energy champion and the development of exemplar projects, and we've some best practice examples. So here's a quote from Paul Kenny, the Chief Executive of the Tipperary Energy Agency, one of the most successful community energy agencies in Ireland. So he said, without citizens and communities demanding change and being part of the transition will not happen. Without value for citizens and communities, they won't demand change. So we need citizens, and as Robert sort of touched on that, you know, we need to empower and help with that bottom-up approach, that the people on the ground are involved and our communities are involved. So just briefly a little bit about Údarás na Gaeltachta. We're responsible for the economic, social, cultural development in the Irish-speaking regions in Ireland. So I suppose in essence, we want people to live in these regions. We want them to be sustainable. We want them to be self-sufficient. There's over 100,000 people living in the Gaeltacht regions and 7,000 people working in Údarás supported businesses. So I can see there the areas are highlighted in green. So there's huge potential there for wind, wave, sun and biomass projects. Again, we're involved in a number of EU projects. A few other ones relating to renewable energy, minority languages, digital innovation, and 3 projects involving marine and the blue economy. So why would you become an energy champion, or what would make a citizen get involved in the energy transition? So I suppose you're reducing your energy consumption, you're supporting your local community, you're driving local economic development. You look at that circular approach where we saw in some of the presentations that the money that can be put back into communities by developing their own RE projects, enabling skills development and supporting personal growth. So how to become an energy champion? I suppose through the Lecco project, we learned that those successful communities are those that build strong relationships with their citizens. So it starts, as Robert sort of touched on, you might start with small projects, retrofit projects, and you're building trust and you're building relationships with your communities. And then when you go on to larger scale projects, they have confidence in you and in your group that they will that you will deliver. So another thing that brings great success to energy projects is to liaise with local partners. So it's about, you know, kind of capacity building and engaging with the right shareholders. So you're engaging with councils, municipals, citizens, universities, and, you know, third level institutions, so that you're engaging with all stakeholders, and from that engagement, different links can be made. So another important thing is just this knowledge sharing. So the delivery of energy efficient advice and training and workshops is always a very, very helpful tool too. So just the practical steps, I suppose, if you're saying, look, we want to start something in our own community and we want to do something, there's a few ownership models there. Just briefly, the cooperative model is probably one of the most common one, and it's defined by the International Cooperative Alliance as an autonomous association of persons invited voluntarily to meet their economic, social and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. So an energy cooperative is a democratic process, and it empowers members of the community to invest in energy projects that have a tangible benefit to the community and create sustainable forms of renewable energy. So then the joint venture model is a co-ownership occurs between cooperatives, municipals and energy companies, also known as public-private partnerships. So these models can present unique opportunities for regional cooperation, not only in renewables, but also in grid ownership. So I think Finland has many examples of co-ownership between municipals and energy companies. And I think they're in large part achieved with jointly owned limited companies too. And I know Germany has also established co-ownership models between citizens and municipals or private companies. And I suppose Ireland has yet to use this model, but it's expected that the new renewable electricity support scheme may provide a platform for this model, as the developers will need a minimum of 20% ownership investment. So the local company is just a model usually initiated by a local entrepreneur and supported by the community, and the municipal utility is owns and operates the energy utility, and they should be able to play a leading role in the generation of the local community power, but it needs to sort of recognise that profits may be placed ahead of public interest. So they're sort of the main ownership models. And again, funding models, there's grant aid available in Ireland, it's the SEAI, the Sustainable Energy Service of Ireland programmes that would provide grant aid. I understand that Sweden gets investment support for solar PV, energy storage, wind energy, and Finland provides grant aid for projects that promote renewable energy production and energy efficiency. There's also lots of community loans or green loans that give low interest loans depending on their on how green and how energy efficient they are. I know in Ireland there are green loans available from Community Finance and Clon Credo and the WDC themselves. The other model there is the LECo model. So it's an energy savings performance contract, a model where energy services company achieves energy savings at a property or portfolio of properties. And I suppose this model guarantees savings for a set period of time. The refits, I suppose it was a common model used in Germany. It gives a fixed guarantee price, which it gave for 20 years, along with feed-in priority, which provided for a secure and simple investment model for private individual energy cooperatives and farmers. But I suppose, like everything, 20 years ends, and other models come to fruition. And again, in Ireland, we're looking to the auction process in the RES programme. So there are also some tax incentives. In Ireland, there's tax relief available in the form of an accelerated capital allowance that promotes investment in energy efficient products and equipment. So, and finally there's the green bonds. So I suppose they were created fund projects that have a positive environmental or climate benefits, and the proceeds from these bonds are earmarked for green projects, but are backed by the issuer's entire balance sheet. So that's just a brief overview for citizens or energy champions that want to get interested about the funding models available, or a starting point for them. So the LECo approach, I know Ian mentioned this, just the engagement, raising awareness and best practice. So to enable, as Robert said, to enable the bottom-up approach, or to assist in that bottom-up approach. Robert also mentioned all the energy modelling and scenarios which can assist in the acceleration of the transition, and the work package 3, which the rest was involved in, was the development of the Energy Village strategic planning. And as Silva said, that's all that information, and the business plans and the strategic plans are all available on the online learning platform. So Silva already kind of alluded to the energy planning process. So I suppose it just gives a clear form of what you need to do and where you can go from an energy planning program. So here's just a few examples. I know there was the video there. There was 3 videos there of the 3 exemplar projects. So I focused on other exemplar projects and the lessons learned from them. So as you can see that in Finland, there was a wind farm project. Must be near where the Energy Week is, Coca-Cola, and the company consists of 200 local private individuals. So the lessons learned included that they give regular information events for local residents, raise a large share of their own equity, don't assume the price of electricity will rise, ensure your own consumption share of generated electricity is high, engage in a consulting company. So again, just maybe getting outside advice as a technical advisor. Again, the Lohata Heat Cooperative consists of 40 agricultural and forestry members which built, own and operate a wood chip heat plant. So their only comment on the project was that the boiler room could have been bigger. So again, a planning issue. I focused there on Ireland, on one of our island communities where we actually visited, and we had a project meeting there, the Iron Island Energy Cooperative, and we spoke with them. And their main aim was to give every resident from the island an opportunity to become involved as a shareholder in the cooperative. And currently the cooperative has about 100 shareholders, and it aims to drive the transition on the island to carbon neutrality. So they were involved in insulating buildings, replacing oil, and using heat pumps and solar PV and battery storage. So we're also still involved in a project with them, the REACT project, where we're making further energy enhancements on community buildings. So the lessons learned from there were that the cooperative rules were adapted to suit the island's particular goals. Important to set goals, important to have everyone involved, important to keep everyone informed, and that the communication with members was essential. So their only other comment was that work would look better if public sector bodies and local authorities could get more support. So again, that's engaging in stakeholders. In Sweden, there, the Jokkmokk eco-municipality owns and operates a small district heating system. And the lessons learned from that were that energy efficiency projects are successful and have a short payback time. Recruiting competent staff is a challenge for small and remote communities. Better metering has detected losses, and new control system has been introduced, and an energy efficient strategy with a long-term perspective has been developed. And there's another example there in Norrbotten County. So it's constructed in a heat pump into wastewater treatment recovery plant. And it's just the lessons learned there that energy efficiency projects considered attractive for the municipalities because of their short payback period. And it's important to consider operational lifetime costs at the planning stage. So another example there in Germany is the outdoor pool. It was formed as a result of citizens' initiative, and the lessons learned, or the things that worked and didn't work, were a small membership fee of only €6 per year was essential for citizens to become members, and citizens and members get a sense of contributing to the main pool, which is an important facility in the community. So there was another example, an energy cooperative in Capel, and a district heating system. So it just demonstrates how local citizens, business and the municipality can cooperate to establish an efficient, sustainable heat supply infrastructure with stable and affordable prices. So there are just a few examples of community projects that work, which we used to implement in our pilot Lecco projects, which you can see on the video. A few of the difficulties that arose and that can arise is just the lack of technical support, lack of administrative support. In Ireland in particular, the planning process can be too long, difficult to get grid connection, and issues with funding. So the successful strategy is the bottom-up approach, community trust and buy-in, engaging with young and old citizens, liaising with multiple stakeholders and exploring the potential of multiple projects, exploring multiple funding mechanisms to deliver a project, value for money, and the capacity building. So again then, and that's my last slide there, so community energy champions light the way to a better energy future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aisling, for this also very detailed presentation, and you even managed to bring us back on track with the timeline, and which is great. So I would also like to point out that all the videos can be seen under the link that has been just posted to the chat. But please don't look at them now, because we are now headed to our panel discussion to wrap up this conference. Let me introduce our panelists. First up is Aisling. We just heard her. And secondly, there is Bertram, who is going to be presenting the German side. We have Pekka as a representative of our Finnish partners, and you haven't not seen him yet, but now with us is Wolfgang Mehl. He is also working for the municipality of Jokkmokk in North Sweden, the second native of Austria working in Sweden. That's Europe, I guess. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining this panel discussion. Well, as all speakers up until now has stressed that the change of in local municipalities or communities is strongly tied to the community aspect of community energy, and that's what I want to discuss about. However, LECo is of course about transnational learning, and transnational learning, I think Robert has also touched upon it. It has to transcend many differences on the national or regional levels. And this is just to establish the problem or the challenge, to let everyone know what's the challenge. I would like to ask everyone what the characteristic situation of the communities in their respective countries or region is for communities pursuing sustainable energy efforts. And I would like to start with Wolfgang. So how are communities in Sweden, in which situation are they?
Yes, hi everybody. Yes, you have taken the first part of my introduction, because I wanted to start with mentioning that as Robert, I'm another person that moved from Austria, from Vienna, Austria. to the remote parts of subarctic northern Sweden. So I've been here for 12 years now, and I would say, I think I have worked on sustainability, climate policies, and all this stuff on the local level now for about almost 30 years, more than 15 years in Austria and now 12 years in Sweden. So I met a lot of people. Regarding the situation in the northern parts of Sweden, of course, the program Northern Periphery is about remote regions, but with low population density. Maybe the Norrbotten province county in northern Sweden is the part of Europe that has one of the lowest population densities in all over Europe. My home municipality, which was the partner in the project, Jokkmokk, has 0.3 people, inhabitants per square kilometer. So you have 3 square kilometers for you to say. If you live in Jokkmokk, it's 20,000 square kilometers, which is exactly the same size as Slovenia, but only 5,000 people. So of course you understand transport is a big issue. Another thing that is very characteristic for Jokkmokk, but even for large parts of Norrbotten and northern Sweden, there is a large-scale production of carbon-free energy in concrete electricity, because we have this big, older cash cow hydro plants, which, for just to mention one example, in Jokkmokk, it's 13 terawatt hours a year, which is just the electricity production from large-scale hydro within the municipality's borders. If you compare to the overall energy consumption in the municipality of Jokkmokk, and this includes even transport and all fossil energy, which is 0.3, so we have 40 times more electricity production from hydro compared to the overall energy consumption. And in addition, we have also a 98% biomass district heating system to which most of the buildings and almost all public buildings and facilities in the central village of the municipality are connected. So this is also a challenge at the same time, just to conclude, because we have somehow people think we're already producing so much renewable energy. Why should just we start to save energy and to switch to additional sources of renewable energy? So here, it's not only the technical challenge, it's also a mental challenge working here in this remote areas that have already a high amount of carbon-free energy production.
Thank you. Well, Pekka, you also being located in Arctic Scandinavia, although the geographic conditions may be somewhat similar and the population density might be somewhat similar, I guess it's a little bit different in your area.
Yeah, well, our city is pretty south. It's about in the height of Umeå, in the middle of Finland, and it's pretty different to Lapland. But we have projects in Lapland also, and well, the main thing what I'm seeing as a citizen, but also as a R&D person, is that the awareness is increasing. So I might say that the broad basement is getting even broader and thicker to build on, which is completely, absolutely necessary to have, because without that, it's not possible. And how to make it even broader and thicker is to make things visible. Like we have seen that we have the potential, we have the economy, and so forth. So this is, you know, the best way to persuade people to join, you know, the general as a thinker, as an attitude, but also as practical doings. So we have a number of cases where we have been active in energy, our energy villages, and we can see that it's pretty easy to get people on the same map, and we have some people have said that this has been the first time when you never hear from which political party this and this person comes, because the vectors are always on the same direction. The motives and the objectives are the same. This is the big picture, I would say, in the whole country. But the practical examples are just emerging, not very, very common, but they are just emerging, and mainly in the district heating branch and wood chip and wood-based materials used, but biogas is expanding and so forth. Shortly crystallized.
Thank you. So I understand that the political awareness of the people is quite different compared to Sweden. And but how about Ireland, Aisling? I believe having the awareness is not, well, the awareness is quite high, as when I was correctly informed when I visited you, but it's still the structure of the energy industry is quite different from what you want to achieve, right?
Yeah, I suppose we're dealing with sparsely populated rural areas, and they mostly rely on the SEAI, the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, just to start off with those smaller projects such as deep retrofit of homes. And also, I suppose, an important factor for awareness was that in planning legislations for new builds, there has to be an element of renewable energy in all the houses, and it's in legislation that you can't have a fire or an open fire now in any new build. So I think that's leading to a lot of awareness about air to water and solar panels, in rural areas, that people see these new builds with all these new technologies. So on that scale, there is an awareness, and communities are busy with the smaller projects of retrofits and such things with the buildings. But the bigger projects, as Pekka said, there's the practical examples are kind of few and far between really at this stage. So it's still very hard to get those off the ground. There's a long planning process with wind projects and solar projects. There's a kind of lack of political alignment with to encourage these projects. So and again, there's a lot of kind of bureaucracy and paper trail with them. So I suppose we can see some small scale projects and very active community groups, but the larger ones are difficult. So I suppose we're interested to see in this new RES scheme and the auction process to see will this accelerate or will this help the larger community projects.
Well, thank you, Aisling. And well, speaking of bureaucracy and entry barriers, Bertram, I think Germany has been a forerunner for a while because the entry threshold for communities and private individuals into renewable energy was quite low.
Yeah, that's true. But I will really say that a lot of communities are not satisfied with the general conditions set by the government. But nevertheless, they continue the path for more climate protection and more renewable energy, because our region has learned it doesn't depend on a lot of money or a lot of stuff. We do not need that. So, and the acceptance of the population is constantly increasing. That's a wonderful message. But the communities know sustainable energy is an ongoing process for all, with ups and downs. So it's very helpful that we got a lot of awards or a lot of visitors, because that is confirmations and incentive to continue. We will do this.
Well, thank you. So I think we can see that within these 4 countries that are represented here, the levels of awareness or the topics the awareness is towards are quite different, and geographies of obviously different, and also policy framework and incentives that are in place. So comparability is quite a different thing. However, the Lecco project, the approach that we took in the Lecco project is to apply some more or less standardized approach for the communities participating, and this way to kickstart their energy transition. And Robert, no, not Robert, sorry, Wolfgang, given your long international history of working with communities, do you think this approach can transcend these differences and work out to strengthen all the communities from different countries?
All these Austrians moving to Sweden. Quite easy to mix them up.
Sorry.
Yes, no problem. Absolutely no problem. Now, if I summarize all the years working on the local and regional level, I would say at the end, it's about the people. It's about individuals taking action. It's about individual responsibility. You have to find at least one person, better of course if it's a small group, people that want to do something, people that want to make a difference, that want to start a process that leads to a change. And as important, I think, is who are these people? What position do they have in the local community? We're talking about at least the 5 pilots we have working with for 3 years in Sweden. It was communities between 50 and 600 people. So this is really small communities. In addition, we have a quite high average age here in this small rural communities in northern Sweden. So young people leaving and not as many coming back. So it's very important which position these opinion leaders have in the community. It can be politicians, it can be people that are retired but engaged in local voluntary organizations, but you have to build up this local, such a local core group that is taking the responsibility for the process. And I think in addition, and this is very different, I think how founding structures on the local and regional level look like, even we have European programs, there is still a big difference between the countries and between the regions. This is again a lesson learned from the project, but I think you need some kind of incentive in the beginning, just to show the regional and the national authorities, they support what you do, they like what you do, they support your approach, they're giving you help. So I think the availability of, it doesn't have that much money, but at least small founding instruments for getting a process started is very, very important for small communities.
Well, and Wolfgang, do you think you know we have this standardized approach that to build energy plants and have a business model? Is this, so to speak, the smallest common base to build upon different backgrounds?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is what I mentioned is before you get to the energy plan. So first you need to get this group of people that want to make a change. They need some kind of incentive, a financial incentive, some kind of founding, and then it's a small community. They will be very grateful if there is a standard approach, if there is some kind of a draft how to set up a local energy plan. It's important that it's not too technical and not too complicated. You need a kind of tool, and I hope we have succeeded within LECo to create such tools that is done in the language, in the style that the local people can identify with and that they understand.
Bertram, speaking of different backgrounds, you are hosting a lot of visitor groups from all over the world. I think you have 50 some nations already visiting your region, and I think their backgrounds are even more diverse than what we have here in this panel. And what are the topics that people are interested from all over the world? Is it technology? Is it how you do it politically? Is it what is the point of focus?
Perhaps you will be surprised. They mostly have the same questions. The same questions. First question is, what are the success factors in your region? Or what is your way to bundle local forces? How do you touch the people? Because it's not only important to have arguments, you must have emotions to touch the people. Therefore, the competitions, you know, about the refrigerator or the heating pump and so on, because everybody has it, not only abstract arguments. They ask for the acceptance of the population, which is increasing, I told you before, and the meaning of regional added value. And that's one of the main point for communities, because if you can keep money in the region, you can everybody convince, even if you are on the left party or right party or in the middle. So mostly I'm talking more about regional added value, even it's important to reduce carbon dioxide. But the argument of regional added value, they ask every day.
Thank you. So it's rather a matter of, well, not political things, but well, of communication and getting people involved.
Both. Just the man 2 or 3 times before me, he told, if you do not have leaders with vision and leaders who do it by heart, with passion, you will not have success. That's the same for administrations or for the company. So that is one point. You need a network. You know, the citizens, we talked about this. So it's a mixture between communication and leadership.
Thank you. One very well distinct transfer effect we had in the project was a learning that has arisen from a study tour in Germany for our Irish partners in Ashlink. Could you explain upon this?
Well, I suppose we did 2 trips to Germany. So the first trip was to the Rhine-Hunsrück district.
Oh.
As Irish people, we were very, very impressed, in particular with the suspension bridge and the way the money was put back into the community on a tourism project. I thought that was very, very unique. So we were I suppose the feed-in tariff was something that impressed us, that gave the people stability and that fixed guarantee, and they had 20 years, and there was AD plants and solar panels, and everything was going great. And we said, that's brilliant, and why don't we as Irish people do that? And we came home and we said, we're so far behind and we need to work on this, and, you know, we should be doing this and we should be, you know, promoting this. So the second trip when we went to Germany then was slightly different. I suppose the scheme was coming to an end, the 20-year scheme was coming to an end, and they were opting to go for an auction process. I think it was just to reduce the cost to the consumer, that the feed-in tariff scheme was costing too much. And we could see then that there were farmer protests, and the people weren't very happy, I suppose. So coming from that, I'm not sure that the Irish model then, the new renewable electricity support scheme, supports the auction process, whereby there's a specific auction process for community ORE schemes. So we've yet to see how this is going to work or how it's going to pan out. It's still on the, you know, I don't know any project yet that has availed, but it's still on the call. It's still, you know, calling projects. So it'll be interesting to see if the auction project works for us as opposed to the feed-in tariff.
Yeah, I think the irritation of the participants of the study trips were that many German hosts were complaining about the German system because they went from the fixed feed-in tariffs to the auction model, and community projects were doing well worse in this scenario. And it's been a learning effect of learning from failure, so to speak, that has transferred to Ireland and directly affected the legislation, which is also an interesting outcome of this project. Yeah. So, Pekka, we are mostly speaking about well, social change and how to involve the communities on rather than technology. And in our when we spoke beforehand this event, you also told me that the sustainable energy transition is more of a social change rather than a technological change. And so from your point of view, what are the fields of social change involved in this?
Yeah, well, I very much agree what was said about the need for commitment and engagement of all levels, but when you're alone, a person or a community, so you will face the whole system of society nationally or regionally. You meet all the attitudes, you meet the legislation, you meet the opponents, you meet the those who do business today about energy. So there's a huge need for the whole society to accept the way of thinking, the way of doing, the structural motives for doing this before you really are capable of putting this kind of projects into practice. So they are multitasking projects in a way, and yeah, that's about the social scientists. They talk about societal structuring processes where the vectors of society are coming to the same direction and supporting the legislation, and basically the whole society has been built. The energy world has been built in another world that we are living and trying to initiate for the moment. So that's the whole system is based on fossil fuels, and all the rules, all the attitudes, all the practices are according to that. And to make a change in that is a multi-level, multitasking exercise. This is basically what I mean.
Thank you. And well, speaking of social structural change, Wolfgang, as you mentioned, the Jokkmokk area is, well, once developed by Vattenfall hydropower, and which is not a fossil fueled energy source, but however, well, traditional energy company, so to speak. And but the area of Jokkmokk is also facing structural change because also of changing employment situations. And what do you think are the opportunities that sustainable energy efforts bring to the communities?
So just, I would start with, of course, Vattenfall was here since the 1920, but of course Jokkmokk did exist before Vattenfall came here. So just remember the biggest event every year, the winter market, was every year as an annual meeting point for the whole region since 1604. And Vattenfall was a very important factor since the 1920, and in the 1960 there were about 13 people living here. Now it's only 5,000 left. And I think what Vattenfall is also, it's both plus and minus, is responsible for. It was a very strong belief in top-down approaches, big-scale top-down approaches. And what people are learning now, and this is, I think, is a challenge, but also a big opportunity for the future. And I think we have contributed to this process as a result of the LECo project. People learn that it's not longer top-down, it's not longer one big company, let it be Vattenfall or another company that is taking responsibility for everything. You have to take responsibility, and a sustainable future, developing sustainable energy, saving energy efficiency is a very important part of this process, but you have to do it. You have to take an initiative. It's bottom-up approach that is the key factor for the future. As an addition, energy prices didn't play a role here for decades. Energy was, mostly electricity was, for people coming from Germany or Austria, unbelievable cheap up here. So in the 1970s, it was a national strategy in Sweden. All new houses should have electric heating, which of course is not longer prioritized in 2020. But still, I think 40% of the houses up here have electric heating. but of course it's getting more expensive now all the time. And I would also underline what Bertram said. I think it's really a lot, and this we have to take with us for the future. It's about emotions. People have to be proud, they have to believe it. And this was one of the main reasons why the most important project in Vollerim, the local pilot, was to prepare and hopefully soon build this community-owned solar plant on the community center, on the roof of the community center. I think this is a symbol, this makes people proud, and this is creating emotions. And just something to round up, I think there's also opportunities, but the biggest challenge, of course, is the transport system here. More or less all use of fossil energy that is left here in Jokkmokk, as I mentioned, hydroelectricity and biomass heating is fuel and is transport. We have 2 or 3 buses a day to the regional capital Luleå, which is 2 hours, 170 kilometers. We have a railway station. The railway station that is operated all year round is 60 kilometers from the center. So it's car traffic, and in winter, in addition, it's a lot of snowmobile traffic that is important. And on the other hand, just think we have a lot of electricity here. You can discuss if large-scale hydro is sustainable or not, but it is there. And this is at least carbon neutral. And we have a lot of transport problems. And there's the number of electric cars with all the problems that are connected to electric cars. But this is a region that would have very, very good opportunities for building up a carbon-free and neutral transport system.
Yeah. And we have an audience question that maybe you can answer it, Wolfgang, but everyone else also invited to answer. The question is because in Ireland there are planning policies from local authorities that favors to center the population in the rural areas, so a movement to centralize settlements rather than distribute them. And the question is if the energy transition can assist can revitalize the rural areas and assist the decentralized settlement structures.
Just a short answer, then I think we leave it to Aisling. It's exactly the same problem in Sweden.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I suppose it just ties into what we're dealing with small rural communities that we want to keep the Irish language alive, so we want people to live and to work there and to be comfortable and live a sustainable, self-sufficient life. So when I look at Bertram's presentation, and when you see how much money you're losing from the economy in energy, you can see how you could revitalize any area, and especially then when you're putting the money back into the area, into tourism projects and into attractions. I think it really is something that we could work at and we could revitalize, and it's definitely an economic drive for rural Ireland and for rural sparsely populated areas. So there's definitely an opportunity there to revitalize areas and keep them as they are. Like, it's important for us as the organization that we are, that they are kept like that, because otherwise, you're into difficulties then about the Irish language speaking areas. So I think it could be a force for economic potential as well as energy consumption savings.
Yeah, and also one quick question to Wolfgang from the audience. The question is, can you have a secondary heating different from electric in Sweden?
Yes, of course, that many people have this. So the combination of electric heating with heat pumps is very, very common in Sweden, yes.
Okay, thank you. So Aisling, your organization is not just some economic development agency, but it's working with the aim to vitalize the Irish-speaking regions of Ireland, which is because for those who are not familiar with it, the majority in Ireland is speaking English as first language, primary language, and there are, especially in the West Coast, you showed it in the presentation, areas where the Irish language is being spoken as primary language. And so how can energy communities contribute to this matter of identity?
Yeah, well, I think I sort of alluded to it there with the last question about revitalizing rural areas. You know, you want to create communities that are self-sufficient and that create employment and that keep young people there and that keep the language alive. And there's a great opportunity now for the energy transition to do this. You know, even in terms of deep retrofit and maybe setting up energy bureaus and just to create employment, and not to reiterate what I've always said, but looking at the model in Ryan Hundrick, when you analyse the facts and when you analyse how much you're losing, you know, there's huge potential there for employment really, and that's what rural areas are really crying out for. So you'll get the employment, but you'll also have a higher standard of living and lower costs. So again, all that is contributing to money going back into the economy. And, you know, I suppose with what was mentioned earlier, with all this, with the coronavirus, we're seeing a lot more people come back to the rural areas, and so that's something we need to capitalize on and to use those people and the knowledge that they've gained while they've been away, and to use their technical knowledge and to create a comfortable, affordable lifestyle, you know, for living in these rural communities. So there's definitely huge potential there.
Great. And Bertram, Wolfgang has mentioned people, the role of people caring for or taking care and carrying the people for leading the people to their local energy transition. And you have been leading your administration for 26 years, and I think it's fair to say the region was fairly conservative. Politically, and not a very prosperous region as well. And what has been your strategy to put people on to incentivize people and put people on the same track as you are trying to?
Yeah, it's a mixture from several points. I mentioned the money which is staying in the region, 43.5 million euros for the region. So some villages say that a chance to make us fit for the future. We can spend the money for a new kindergarten. We can build new schools. We can something do for the nature, buying an e-car for the people, and so on and so on. That is an advantage. And the second is the personal profit. So more than 40 villages created subsidies for the people who live in villages. For example, if you are buying a new refrigerator, A 3 times plus, you will get 100 euro for your personal. So I know one person who was strict against wind turbines. And the mayor of this little village phoned to me and said, oh, we have a wonder. This guy who was against the 2 wind turbines was in my office, has a bill for a new refrigerator and want to get the 100 euro for himself. So everybody has a little profit. So that's another point. And I just told it, the personal touch, emotions. If you are telling about renewable energy in Europe, in the world, about nuclear somewhere, that's not what the people touching. But your heating pump in your cellar, your refrigerator in your room, your lighting bulb, that is a point where the people think about, oh, it's also my turn to do something. And that's, we needed more than 25 or 30 years. So it was very difficult and step by step. And sometimes we had to need a lot of patience. But that's the step to go to the people where they are and to look for their profit, for their advantage, for their responsibility. And let me tell you something very unusual, because a lot of people do not think about this, because don't forget that the citizenship activities lead to strengthening the democratic basis. We have a special cohesion. We have more activities in political committee. Nobody is talking about this. That's another wonderful effect. And let me tell you the last sentence. We are talking about communities for renewable energy. But you cannot say in another way. What can renewable energies doing for communities? And that is effect I just described.
Oh yes, I think the democracy aspect is well, looking at America and also different developments in Europe, continental Europe. The democracy aspect is quite important. One quick question, Bertram. Of course, what you have done hasn't been done overnight, but
No.
over 3 decades. So it's a quite a steady process, and I think it is important to point out that it's not easy to tell people how things are or should be, and they don't just understand, but it's a steady process of informing and steadily informing everyone over 3 decades. How did you manage to keep the energy, so to speak?
Yeah, I did it not by myself alone. I have a lot of friends, a lot of people who have the same mind like me. We created a network with farmers, with engineers, with schools, with craftsmen. So if you have good ideas, you will find a lot of people who are in the same thinking in the same mind, and they give back you a positive reaction that, if you can do something for you, for the county, for the district, we are ready to help you. I didn't have any money, but in the communication, I told them, I count off you. It's your region, it's not my region alone. Please let us come together and make the future better than in the last 20, 30 years. So that is a process, difficult to explain. Network, citizens, guideline function, exemplary, exception, political committees. It's a lot of things coming together.
Well, Pekka, the last question is for you. So you were among the first one to put your eyes on renewable energy and sustainable energy in Finland, and you have been following the development for decades now. And how would you assess the potential of this energy transition, of the local energy transitions, for the society in large? How much transformation energy will they bring?
Well, actually, this has been the tone of the whole day, and my presentation and the very wise talks we have heard in this panel discussion and other presentations. So, well, we have good examples. We have the villages within your project. We have a number of good examples in Finland otherwise, but still the big picture is that we are talking about a potential, something that is very, very much potential and possible, but still not put into practice. But the way to teach people is, how do you teach children? When you say 10 times that this is a chair, and after 10 times the child asks, is this a chair? So you have to repeat and tell again and again, and little by little the attitudes, the atmosphere is changing. At some point we need expertise. We need what I told, the societal structuring processes, legislation, general rules, but then we need the technologies and real experts who put in the practice. So what I see is a great potential, but there's so hell of a lot of things to be done.
Well, I think this is a a great last sentence for this panel discussion. I think we could extend our discussion further, but we are already over time, and so I would like to thank the panelists for their active participation. It's been great. I would like to thank the audience for following this conference, and I believe some people, especially in Ireland, where this is still early morning, will follow this on the recorded session. I once again post the links to videos about the pilot communities and also for the learning platform. Please have a look at it. It's really useful material for you. And well, that'll be it for now. I hope you had an interesting morning, and I wish you another 2 days, I think, of the Coca-Cola Material Week that are informative and interesting for you. And most of all, stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well done.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Rein terwezen.
Bye bye.
Me ollaan tosiaan Toholamin Härkänevalla ja meillä on lypsykarjatila, noin 260 lehmää ja nuorkarja, yli 500 eläintä. Ja saatte täällä 4 robottia nyt lypsää ja peltoalaa on 400 hehtaaria. Joo, meillähän on LECo-hankkeen myötä nyt kun meillä on tää biovoimalaitos, jolla tällä hetkellä tuotetaan sähkö meidän maatilalle ja otetaan lämpö. Mutta meillä on ajatuksena, että ruvettaisiin tekemään liikennekaasua. Ja siinä vaiheessa, kun tämä liikennekaasua ruvetaan tekemään, niin meillä on tarkoitus laittaa aurinkopaneeleita tuonne navetan katolle, jota on yli 6000 neliötä kattopinta-alaa. Ja tässä LECo-hankkeessa on nyt laskettu näitä kannattavuutta, kustannusarvioita ja erilaisia laskelmia, joita voidaan käyttää sitten myös, kun lähdetään hakemaan tukea tälle investoinnille. Niin LECo-hanke on ollut tässä mukana. Kun nyt me pystytään tosiaan tätä biovoimaa käyttämään ja aina vaan enempi sinne ottaa erilaisia syötteitä ja nurmea ja muuta ja tosiaan käyttää se liikennepolttoaineeksi, eli me pystytään ruveta ottaa traktorit, autot ja myymäänkin myös sitä, niin tässä vaiheessa sitten kun me saadaan sähkö tuolta aurinkokennojen kautta, niin tämä mahdollistaa silloin sitten tämmöiset investoinnit.
Ageragas Innovation Oy on 8 vuotta sitten saanut alkusysäyksensä. 3 vuotta sitten perustettiin osakeyhtiö ratkaisemaan hajautetun biokaasutuotannon tiedossa olevia ongelmia. Tavoitteena on tuottaa mahdollisimman suuri lisäarvo alkutuotannon hallussa oleva raaka-ainepotentiaali sekä ilmastollisesta että ravinteen näkökulmasta, mutta myös taloudellisesta puolesta. LECo-hankkeessa meille laskettiin teoreettinen potentiaali tälle toimintamallillemme. Sen lisäksi muodostettiin tällainen laboratoriomittakaavan nesteytysyksikkö, jota testattiin tilallemme vuosi sitten. Ja sen lisäksi meille laskettiin tähän Lestijokelaaksoon mallinnettava energia, ravinne ja hiilitasepotentiaali. Niiden laskelmien perusteella ollaan menty nyt sitten seuraavaan hankkeeseen, muun muassa habitushankkeeseen. No, Ageragas Innovation Oyn mielestä tämä energiaomavaraisuus pitäisi nähdä tämmöisen valtakunnallisena energiaomavaraisuutena. Eli tämä alkutuotannon toistaiseksi hyödyntämättä oleva raaka-ainepotentiaali ei niinkään hyödynnä suoraan oman tilan energiatasetta, vaan ihan valtakunnallisesti korvatessaan fossiilisia polttoaineita ja liikennepolttoaineita, johon me tähtäämme tämän.
Joo, tässä on meidän ainoa laitoksemme, 300 kilowatin laitos, ja lämmitetään 3 kiinteistöä, Kokkolan vuokra-asuntojen rivitaloja, tuossa on vanhankoti Lepola ja Villa-Maria Dementia hoitokoti, ja laitos on käynnistynyt 2002 ja energiaosuuskunta on perustettu 2001.
Mitä LECo-hankkeen puitteissa on tehty?
Oltiin siinä heti alussa mukana, toki se vähän hiipui sitten, kun ei päästy siihen rahoituksen piiriin, mutta tietysti on saanut informaatiota ja tietoa toiminnalle. Ja matkusteltu on jonkin verran ja ulkomailla käyty ja tullut kanavia ja yhteistyökumppaneitakin. Nyt varsinkin kun turve on pikkuhiljaa ainakin vähenemässä täällä energiatuotannossa, niin tämä puu on meille tärkeä ja totta kai arvostetaan myös näitä lämpöpumppusysteemejä, tuulienergiaa ja aurinkoenergiaakin tukimuotoina uusiutuvan energian sähkötuotannossa.
Séir atá déanta goin leis an túnscail seo ná stadar féidirthe de díla anaeróbach de léhanais curca gaoine. Tá an talmhaíocht tharbheith táchtach de curca gaoine agus dá bhór sin thusnéimar ag caint le lucht fearmóireachta an léhanais go luath chun na príomhdúsláin atá ag buint leis a phlé.
Bhí cairdan pobl leis go gin, chuoine mar surveys agus tháinig fearmóir de gach sortan, fearmóirí céirigh, fearmóirí stoc, agus chomáil leis sin gnámhaintear an phobal go bhfuil simimecha i cuasaí fuinneamh in anúite.
Thugam mar cuire den talamh Jerry Murphy ó Marai tacht chun caint agus scapmar an scéal go dtí na fearmóirí ar an léhanais. Is ag an fórum sin a thosnig an tacaíocht ó údarás na Gaeltachta agus an míniú ón túnscail Lecco chun cuid stadar féidirthe a chur ar siúl. Thosnig an cadramh le líonraí gás éireann ag an am céine agus fuairmar an chuidéile den míniú den stadar féidirthe ón guiste nuálaíocht atá cosisiúd.
The main objective was to assess the practical and economic viability of a biogas plant on the Dingle Peninsula. To do this, we needed to evaluate the potential sources of feedstock and the types of feedstock that we could put into the plant. And this included mainly agricultural feedstocks and non-agricultural feedstocks like sewage, sludge and municipal wastes. The conclusion was that grass silage was the most abundant and practically available feedstock. We assessed that the best potential location for the plant would be in the Dingle area and that the most economically viable use of the biogas would be upgrading to biomethane for injection into the national grid. We also looked at the potential for fueling vehicles in the Dingle area.
Sé an céad céim eile atá le déanamh goin ná an míniú ceart ahent chun an tugra seo a Orbert agus séir de bheith géis le Forbert nó an siomh ceart ahent cad planála a áil agus freisin chun an dara technicúil a chur le chéile. Be míad ag plé an míniú ceart seo le na heagraíochtaí agsúla cosúla líonraí gás éireann údarás na Gaeltachta SEAI, Marai agus Rhine talmhaíochta freisin.
Pilot project was performed at the Arctic Circle in northern Sweden, in the village of Vullrum, which is situated on the mighty Luleå River. In the 1950s and 60s, hydropower plants were built along its length, and with that, a huge workforce of more than 1,600 people lived in Vullrum. Today, 10% of Sweden's hydropower is produced from 13 plants along this river, while around 700 people remain in Vullrum. Interestingly, the average age is relatively high. Still, Vullrum is an important hub for hydropower energy, has a comprehensive public infrastructure, many private companies, and the only dairy farm in the region. Climate is special here, where winter can be harsh with no sun and very little daylight. However, during the summer months, the sun never sets. So there is an abundance of light that offers great, and so far mostly unused, possibilities for photovoltaic energy. At the centre of this LECo pilot project was the community centre Folkets Hus, People's House, whose members became a very active part of this project.
Det har varit spännande och intressant att följa med i det här projektet. Man har lärt sig en hel del och man har blivit intresserad att lära sig mer framför allt.
Jag heter Lotta Mellers, inflyttad till Vollerim sedan 2013. Och nu vill jag vara med och hjälpa till att utveckla byn. Jag har varit med i projektet Hållbar energi och fick också förmånen då att följa med på en studieresa till Tyskland. Det var väldigt förvånande och inspirerande att se alla solceller som användes där.
Genom projektet Hållbar energi i Vollerim har vi försökt ta reda på hur stort intresse det finns för alternativ, till exempel solceller och annat.
Här i Vollerim har jag haft förmånen att gå omkring och prata med människor, intervjua folk här i byn, de flesta faktiskt. Och det var ett otroligt gensvar. Vi har ställt många frågor, vi har fått många svar och det är intressant att se att folk kanske inte ens har trott att man kunde använda solceller så här långt norröver som vi är, eftersom vi är på gränsen till polcirkeln.
Projektet har visat att det finns ett stort intresse i Vollerim till dels alternativ och att man ska göra det tillsammans. Man valde också att gå fram med att man ville ha kollektiva lösningar när det gäller att skapa till exempel en solcellspark där man själv tillsammans med andra kunde lösa en del av de energiproblem man har i samhället. Vid slutredovisningen på Folkets hus kom man överens om att man ska gå vidare i två delar. Den ena delen var att man ville gemensamt handla upp luftvärmepumpar. Den andra delen var det att man skulle gå vidare med också och titta på möjligheten att skapa en solcellspark.
Annat så vill man nu satsa på en egen gemensam ägd solcellsanläggning på orten. Och det låter ju alldeles fantastiskt därför att solceller, solenergi, det är framtiden. Och även i våra norra regioner så kan ju solceller bidra med mycket förnybar ren energi.